Hey guys, welcome back to the Banter Podcast. I am Tim, and I am joined by Kevin Bradley, my lovely, lovely, lovely co-host. How are you, Kevin?
Good, man. How are you?
I'm doing well. I am excited, reinvigorated with the podcast schedule that we have decided upon.
Yeah. So, for those who may be former listeners, or I guess not really former since it's back up and running, but past listeners to the show, it's been a while. We were kind of hit or miss for a while, and a lot of it was just because we were recording on Wednesdays regularly, but before we were doing 2 episodes a week. It was Sunday and Wednesday. So, I think Sundays will be a better day for both of us. Work won't be so hectic and me studying and stuff like that. So, hopefully, we can be a little bit more regular and get a show on Sundays more regularly now. So
Yeah, absolutely. And right now it kind of works because there isn't a whole lot on TV that we're interfering with at this hour on Sundays, which is
yeah,
good.
yeah, give that another couple of weeks and it'll
Yeah,
be.
that's true. Now, how long till The Walking Dead's back on? Like another month?
I think middle of October, but there's something else, some other show that starts up the beginning of October.
Mad
But
Men?
no. I can't remember what it was. I'll think of it. I'm sure.
Yeah,
But
I'm
yeah,
sure. I'm sure it's an AMC show of some sort or an HBO show. Those are the two Sunday shows that just absolutely kill any other type of programming.
right.
And it seems strategic what FX has done. We'll talk about that in a little bit whenever we talk about the strain, I guess. And just to go over what you know, kind of the stuff we've been doing lately. I guess the main thing we're going to be talking about is one of the last things we talked about whenever we were recording earlier on in the year. Whenever we got to test out the Destiny beta, and now that it's in full swing, it's been out for almost a week now. It came out Tuesday, right?
Yep.
Yep. So Monday night, midnight release for a lot of people, including Kevin, and then yeah, it's broken all kinds of records, I think, if I'm not mistaken. And um, for the mixed reviews, it's been quite a hit. But aside from that, what else are we going to talk about? Destiny, The Strain, probably, and then
Yeah. Whatever comes up.
yeah, that is the nature of the show. That is the nature of the show.
Yeah. I think Destiny's pretty much been the main thing that both of us have had really going on lately. And since it is Sunday night and we've both been watching The Strain, we can talk a little bit about that for sure. So,
Yeah.
and again, whatever else comes up. But
So Destiny, let's talk about your first experience with the Microsoft Store doing a midnight release because it's not often that you get to do something like that, especially if you don't live in a big city, because the Microsoft stores are not necessarily as prevalent as, say, an Apple Store or in competition for video games, GameStop and Walmart. I don't know if Walmart even does midnight
they do.
releases. They
They
do.
do. Yeah.
Okay. So if you're talking about you got GameStop, Best Buy, Walmart, and then Microsoft Store. And what better place to go do a midnight release for a Microsoft Xbox One game than the Microsoft Store, correct?
Right. And it's one of those things, and you kind of alluded to it, coming from a smaller town and even a college town like Clemson, pretty much the only place that I went to for midnight releases was GameStop or Walmart. And typically, there's a decent crowd out there, but they don't really do much. Everyone's there, obviously, just to pick up the game. And so you may talk to a few people, but it's not really a big deal. So this week, with Destiny coming out, I just happened to get a text to my phone that the GameStop at the mall was doing a midnight release, and I was like, oh well, I guess I'll go and see what that's all about, see if they're doing anything. So I went the day of and talked to the clerk, and they were like, we're gonna do something. People will start showing up around 10 or so. We'll do some little carnival games, for lack of a better word, and we'll have some giveaways and stuff like that. And then we'll line up about quarter to 12 and everybody will get the game. I said, okay, that sounds pretty cool. I don't really have much going on that later in the evening. So I went to GameStop, and it was completely dead. I mean, there were people there, obviously, but nothing really going on at all. They had some, door prizes, which were really just some like GameStop lanyards or something like that, and
Dude, don't knock a
GameStop
good lanyard.
GameStop Livestrong bracelets, and I was, so what? I hung out. I got some street passes on the 3DS. Talked to some people about the Pokemon reboots for Ruby and Sapphire, and I saw a guy walk by with a Xbox bag on, one of those little drawstring knapsacks or whatever.
Oh yeah.
And I was asking him where he got it from, and he said, "Oh yeah, Microsoft Store is doing a big thing." Never once crossed my mind, though I've been in there several times, played the Xbox ones that they have in there on display, whatever. I just needed to kill time while Amber was in a store. Got my Surface from there. Never once even considered that they would have done a midnight release. So I was like, "So are they giving that stuff out to everybody?" He's like, "Yeah, go check it out. You don't even have to like pre-order the game from there." I said, "Okay." So go down to the Microsoft Store, walk in, they sign me up, they give me a grab bag with an Xbox shirt, the bag, a water bottle, raffle ticket, and pointed me to the back of the store where they had pizza and blondies, which I know where you stand on the blondie game.
Oh
And
God. I think
so,
I think it should be common knowledge how I feel about blondies.
right, and so I went to it was very much along the same lines of that Xbox event I went to last summer. I mean, the other really disappointing thing about GameStop was, I guess, because of their policy and stuff like that, they couldn't have the game playing live in the store, and the only games that they had up were Mario Kart 8 or whatever on one Wii U with one controller. Nothing else on their Xbox One wasn't even running, and so I go into Xbox, and it's like the gates of heaven have opened up. Basically, they've got all these little portable Xbox Ones with Destiny all over the store. They've got all the the screens along the wall, the projection screens, all running it, and you didn't have to have a wait to get your hands on a controller and play. So I grabbed some pizza, sat down, played Destiny, talked to some people, and it was a really, really good time. And the people there were very supportive about upcoming midnight releases and stuff like that. I'm definitely going to go check out Sunset Overdrive, since that'll be another Xbox exclusive, as well as the Halo Master Chief Collection. And the icing on the cake, though, was the raffles, which I'm I think everyone generally has the mindset of I never win anything, and I'm no different. And so the raffle comes up, and like I'll stick around. I got to go pick up my game over at GameStop. So they read off a first number. It was one above my number. They called off another number. A couple minutes later, it was one below my number. So it was like a quarter to midnight. I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna go down to the GameStop. There's no way they're gonna call mine and split the middle. I mean, there's probably 50 or 60 people in there at least. And so I'm walking out the door, and they go to do another raffle, and the guy calls off the first three numbers. And I stopped, and my ticket had those, and he's like, "Who's still in it?" Raised my hand, and then I started like miming the numbers. He's like, "Yeah, yeah," like going through the next three numbers or whatever, and then lo and behold, I won a year subscription to Xbox Live. So that was pretty sweet.
Yeah, that's pretty damn awesome.
Yeah.
I can't imagine winning anything
So
through
yeah,
a raffle.
had no idea it was taking place. Left with a shirt, a bag, a water bottle, and a year subscription to Xbox Live for the low, low price of $0,
Awesome.
and a gut full of pizza and blondies.
I think the most rewarding part is probably that portion of your stomach that was dedicated to holding those blondies afterward.
That's it. That's it.
Yeah.
So
No,
yeah, it was a good time.
that is pretty amazing. I didn't even think about it until just now, but I mean that whole mindset of not thinking about. Am I too loud? Am I?
I had my volume up. I don't know. Is it giving you an echo in my mic or something? Is that what
No,
you're
it's not
asking?
good. I'm just seeing my levels on the Hangout, and they seemed a little high. So
They may be. I'm not sure. Yeah, they do look a little higher than mine, but I'm sure it'll be fine.
okay. Either way,
If not, we can always adjust you. Oh, speaking of which, do you want to plug the last show? That was a pretty great show. You ran that solo.
oh yeah, so I had the opportunity to interview one of my favorite musicians from high school and college, and I still listen to his old band from time to time and his new solo stuff. Mark Rose. For those of you who are into Victory Records bands, maybe back in the early 2000s, mid 2000s, Spitalfield, their lead singer. I got to interview him on the Banter podcast. It was about 40 minutes or so. We talked about his new ventures, also fantasy football, and couple other things. Why him leaking his photos, or his photos getting leaked from the iCloud, all of his nudes. But yeah, head over to either iTunes or banterboys.podomatic.com and go check it out. But what I was going to talk about is one thing I didn't think about was the whole idea, the mindset of not thinking about Microsoft Store for midnight release, which is crazy because they've been making video games and putting out game systems since, for what, 11 years now, something
Yeah.
like that, 12 years. And I think it's maybe because, I wouldn't have thought about it either because I think more of the Microsoft Store as a
As
competitor to the
Microsoft's
Apple
Apple
Store.
Store. Right. Exactly.
Exactly, yeah. It's more of I don't know, more going and checking out the computers and going and checking
Right.
out software and all that. And you forget that in the corner they have all those Xboxes set up for you to play, and
Right.
no, that's awesome because nobody's going to pull out the stops more than that, more than them because they have, especially the games that they're producing. I can't imagine, what Sunset Overdrive's and Halo Master Chief Collection is going to be like on or at the Microsoft Store. So
Yeah, yeah, especially with them being exclusive. And another thing to note, for those of you that may have an Xbox One looking to go to midnight release at a Microsoft Store, they also have one of the better pre-order bonuses of a game system, I guess, is they do $10 off whenever you pre-order a game, which is what I typically really like about Amazon. Whenever they pre-order, is they'll give you a $20 off, which is usually better than any in-game crap that they're going to throw at you, which everyone else is going to have, and it kind of loses its, I guess, significance dramatically after you do that once or twice. Unless it's something really sweet in game, I'd rather just take $10 off of the price of the game. So definitely check that out. You muted yourself, I believe, Tim.
there we go. Is that
Yeah.
better? There it
Yeah.
goes. Yeah, it was actually muted through this. I'm on a new computer. Sorry, it's giving me a little bit of trouble right now trying to get back into the swing of things. But so you got to play Destiny for a little bit. What were the setups like on site? Because I mean, Destiny is a game in its essence is an RPG. Like you build your own character and move along. Like what are you
Right.
playing whenever you are you just playing like you create a random character that they have
No,
characters
they didn't even.
set
They
up?
didn't have. Yeah, they had them set up. They had three basic character setups already set up. They had a warlock, a titan, and a hunter already set up, and you could go in and play pretty much the first one or two missions, I believe, like whenever you get your ship and stuff like that. So it was pretty much a brief introductory session of playing the game without having to get bogged down in all the character setup and all that. So, and you can kind of get a feel for each one of the classes and play a little bit of it while you pass the time. So.
That's cool. Kind of a quick start, kind of the beta, pretty much.
Right, right, right.
Yeah, that's cool. So we're almost a week into playing it. Well, you are. I am. What 4 day, 3 days into playing it? I got it on Thursday night. Um, so far, in a few words, what are your thoughts?
Ugh, I don't know if I can do a few words. Let's see. I guess we'll get in depth conversation, but few words.
Just initial impressions. I understand this game is huge, and we've only been at it for a couple days now, and you've been splitting your time between characters.
Right, but I actually got my Titan up to like level 19 today, so I'm actually
Oh,
getting into
damn.
a whole
Okay.
other sort of set of stuff which we can go into. But so briefly, I think the best way I've been able to really talk about games lately, and I've noticed myself doing it, is to just give examples of other games and what it would be like if you sort of compared it to others. And I think the best way to really describe this is Halo meets Diablo 3. But with some trade-offs. Obviously, in the gameplay, it's not the top-down RPG that you're used to from Diablo. And it doesn't have really the intense story of Halo. That said, and even that's kind of deceiving because the story is there, it's just kind of hidden. But to the same effect as Diablo, you'll play it probably a half dozen times and not really know what the story's about. I'm starting to get bits and pieces of it as I'm playing it. It's fairly generic, but to those who may be playing the game and having some frustrations with it, I definitely recommend checking out the companion app. We can also talk about that a little bit. But about the game, solid gameplay, incredible world building, slightly lackluster story experience, I guess is the best way to put it. So, What about you?
I agree completely about the playability aspect. To me, that's kind of an impressive feat whenever you have something that, as you just said, it lacking in story. You still want to go back and play time after time, and it's a game that we'll get into it in a little bit. But the world building is incredible. I found myself just rotating on the moon, just looking up and just looking around.
And the textures and stuff like that, I've also done that, especially whenever you go down into some of the lower tunnels and stuff on the moon, and some of the textures and stuff on the
Yeah,
walls and on the ground and stuff. It's really vast and really well done.
yeah. Graphically impressive, and shooting, the mechanics, the battle mechanics are awesome. That's what I'll
Yeah.
say.
So I guess you want to just do a breakdown. I can actually make a little list. I think the main things that I guess any gamer really is going to look for in a title boil down to a couple of basic things, which I guess we kind of talked about. There's the gameplay overall. There's the story and graphics, I guess, really is the third one, which, for better or worse, I mean, I feel like a lot of games now are driven by graphics, and sometimes that can be a good thing, sometimes it can be bad, and I think Destiny has a little bit of both, and we can get into that, but those seem to be the three big things that anybody's looking for in a game, and I guess replayability is the other one, so you want to talk a little bit about the gameplay, talk about characters, classes, and just the overall mechanics of the game a little bit. What class did you go with?
I'm playing a hunter right now, and I'm thoroughly enjoying it because one of the things that I really liked about the beta was getting my hands on a sniper rifle and realizing just how clean the mechanics are with it. They kind of mimic, rightly so, the Halo sniping mechanics, which I absolutely loved, and range, but also I like being able to, run and whatever, throwing knives, and it's similar, with the exception of maybe take hits and take
You're
hits,
lagging
and
out a little bit here.
that's no good.
I think it's starting
You
to
still
catch
there?
up now. Yeah, I'm here. It just lagged out a little bit. So you went with a hunter, and you talked a little bit about that. You want to run through that a little bit better again?
Am I good now? Am I
Yeah, I think so.
okay? Which is crazy because we have far better internet than whenever we were recording initially.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
hmm, give me well, you talk about.
So whenever I initially got the game, this was before you had picked it up, and so I ran through it solo, which I think, speaking of gameplay, is probably one of the things that Destiny does better than most titles I've played recently, which is weaving a single player, a co-op, and a multiplayer experience together really well, to where you're constantly bouncing back and forth between them, and you don't feel restricted or obligated to play one more so than the other. And all of them are really, really enjoyable, which is a breath of fresh air for most games. It seems like it's a game that has a campaign and you end up playing multiplayer all the time, or vice versa, and there's no real reason to go back and forth between the others. So whenever I started out, I picked a Titan, which tends to be my sort of play style, which is just run and gun, tank, get in people's faces, and I can't the sort of strategy and gameplay of having a sniper and kind of sitting back and taking my time doesn't tend to work well, which but it's great for a team-based game to have that character that can go in and tank a little bit and draw hits while there's other characters on the field. So I went Titan. I played through a good bit. It's up to about a level 19 now. I think there's a soft cap of 20 with a hard level cap at 26 from what I've seen. I will say that one of my disappointments playing the game at first was the rate of item drops, and they just seemed very sparse. You'd get an item drop every now and then, and most of the time they weren't anything of any value at all. Which I guess this is the first game I've really had that happen. And about I think Borderlands was a little over the top with item drops, and that
Kind of
really
like Diablo
dictated.
too. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and it really dictated the pace of the game. But as I've gotten towards a higher level, I think really the turning point is about level 18. I'm seeing a lot more item drops, and they're consistently well balanced gear and weapons. So that's been really great. And then I started a warlock whenever I started playing with you. So I've got one of each, and definitely enjoying it so far. So it seems like your connection's caught back up now. So
I
you
hope
want to?
so.
Yeah,
Am I good?
yeah,
Am I good?
yeah,
I'm good. Okay.
yeah. You seem great.
So what I was talking about was I've been playing a hunter. Sorry for the disruption. Um, what I was saying is they all seem, at least from surface value, the three classes all seem to be pretty damn similar, with the exception of, say, like you were saying, the Titan being able to take hits and all that. With grenades and I don't. Do you have a throw? Do you have a projectile you throw? Because I could throw my melee. I could throw my knife.
No, but that's the other thing. Is like all three of the melees are different. I don't. I just have my grenade that I can throw.
Oh, okay.
My melee has some effect on the battlefield. Like it'll do residual damage to other enemies around it or something like that. So.
I gotcha. Well, I think before I started lagging out, I think one of the main things I really like about playing the hunter so far is playing from distance and being able to use the sniper, which I talked about whenever we played the beta and how much I enjoyed the mechanics involved in it. Transitioning from Halo, Bungie transitioning those two experiences over, it seems pretty seamless. They seem to react kind of the same way, and being able to get a headshot on a like a Hollow Knight and take him down with one hit is just it's very satisfying. That's one of the things I really like. Headshots, just how much of an advantage headshots give you, or how big of
Right.
a boost a headshot gives you versus a body shot. You guys probably hear my dog barking in the background. But I don't know. I've really enjoyed it, being able to run and gun from distance. I'm not near as good or as quick with you, or quick as you, as pulling out the sparrow and being able to speed around immediately whenever I notice that there's some space involved in the level. But like you were saying, the seamless kind of not transition, just the seamless existence of single player and multiplayer, how they coexist. It's fantastic the way that they did it. It's not exactly how I remember them describing it at E3 a couple years ago, whenever they were talking about like people just dropping in and being able to play with them and all that.
Have you not done any of that yet?
Well, I mean, that's you still have to coordinate that, I guess, is what I'm getting at, right? You still have to invite people and get into people's fire teams and.
No, 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 not at all. So like the strike missions, for example, which you haven't done any strike missions solo. You've only done
Correct.
So there's various campaign missions that you do, and some of them are strictly you can play them solo, run through them, or whatever. The other thing to note is you're constantly seeing other players on whatever world that you're on, whether it's Earth or the Moon or Venus or whatever. There's other players going around all the time, so you very well could walk up to them and interact with them. But they're your typical campaign missions, and then there are missions called strike missions, which you have to play co-op. And so if you don't have a fire team of friends, whenever you start that mission, it'll pair you up with two other people, and you do co-op that way. And then there's the public events where you'll be walking around exploring, and then all of a sudden the sky will get dark, and there will be an event in which a bunch of people come up and interact and play together. So
That's one thing I have enjoyed is you and I and Troy, our buddy Pastor Alpha. We've been able to complete a few of those public events whenever we've been doing missions. I think we did a couple on the moon they're usually pretty fun. They're usually just barrage missions, where
right.
you have to hold off enemy forces, which I think they do a good job of that too. Trying to think of what game that kind of mimics. It seems so familiar that the way that they do it, but the way that they guess they go in waves. I think they do a really good job of that, especially the Hive. I guess the way they come in those ships and
Right.
drop them in on you like that, and it kind of feels was Gears of War kind of like that?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I guess so. Whenever you get waves of the Horde, but no, it's been fantastic. I've been playing I've played very little solo, so this is a game for me that it trumps Titanfall in my, I guess my proactivity in getting involved with you and Troy wanting to get together and play
Right,
more so, because Titanfall is like COD where it's deathmatch or domination or
right.
whatever have you, or whatever what have you. This is a lot like whenever we were playing Diablo, and it's kind of that experience that I've been pining for over the past year and a half, where the group of us get together, and I think we'll have more people getting involved with us. What's the max fire team you can have?
I
Is it
think
four?
4. I think.
Okay, yeah, I'm sure we'll get a fourth in there soon enough, but um, you
Have
know,
you
I
played any of Crucible at all?
I still have yet to dabble in Crucible. I know that it's a lot. It's like hardpoint domination, right, in COD, where you have territories you have to hold off.
Well, that's the other thing. So Crucible, for those who haven't played the game, is the multiplayer part of the game. So you have your campaign and co-op missions, and then which is sort of called Vanguard, and then you have the Crucible, which is sort of like the way they pose it within the world is like the training grounds for all the Guardians. And as you level up, you unlock different multiplayer matchmaking types. So the first one you unlock is like a domination game type, like Tim was saying, and then as you progress, you unlock like this sort of team deathmatch and then PvP. And then they also, I guess, the first weekend the game was out, which is really, really commendable for, or admirable even for Bungie, is they've started doing community events already in the first weekend, and so they rolled out a like a multiplayer game type called Salvage that was playable all weekend, as well as some. They're supposed to be rolling out some like open raids and stuff like that. So it's really been a lot of fun. I think as far as the multiplayer goes, you level up a lot more, and again, tying everything back in together, you have different gear, which is um, based a little bit more towards whatever game type you're playing. So you can have gear that warrants itself more so for multiplayer versus single player, and vice versa. And then you also have bounties, which are just sort of side missions within the missions of, get 100 headshots and get X XP bonuses or cash bonuses or whatever within the game, which is really neat.
Yeah, it's not as the game's not so much bogged down by kill 20 of these, come back. It's not like one of those RPGs,
Right.
since WoW came out that it's every mission is, go collect 20 scalps and bring them back and
It really does remind me of a dungeon crawler sort of Diablo 3 experience, particularly once you get past Earth. I think the moon was a really good example of that. I mean, if they changed the perspective from first-person shooter to top-down, you would have a Diablo 3
yeah,
experience without a
absolutely.
doubt. So it's been a lot of fun in that way, and with it being open world, even if you're in the middle of the mission and you see something come up or you want to go over here, you can go wherever you want to and then pick back up in the mission whenever you're ready to. So um, I've been having a lot of fun with it, though. So that's a little bit about the gameplay. Um, what do you think about the story so far?
Um,
I guess,
I,
well, for you, I feel like
I kind
so.
of got well dropping in and starting to play with you guys. You guys had already kind of been through a lot of the stuff that I was doing, and um, I don't know. For me, games like this are less about story, like you were talking about with Diablo. Not like you get bits and pieces every time you go through it, and I'm just trying to rush through and get as much gameplay under my belt as possible, I guess.
Right. And I think that your experience kind of got trumped because we were playing in a group, and inevitably, whenever you're playing with a group, everyone's talking and shooting the shit, and nobody's really paying attention to the cutscenes or what's really going on. So I'm sure you'll pick up a lot of that stuff going through solo. But even still, like with me going through it solo, I think the story's okay on the surface, but for those of you playing the game and are kind of disappointed with the story, you're probably like me and you've seen the Grimoire cards or whatever notification pop up on the screen to like go to Bungie.net or download the companion app, and said, "Fuck that! I'm never gonna do it." If you're really looking for more of the story and more in-depth information about the enemies or the environments or just the story in general. You know, the dead ghosts that you revive, all those ghosts have information within them as part of their like sort of AI structure. Those cards actually go in depth to what those ghost memories are essentially and stuff like that, and it fills in a lot of that backstory and what's going on within the world. So definitely recommend checking out the companion app. The other cool thing is that all your friends, it gives you a stat breakdown for all your friends comparatively so that you can sort of see, you know, oh, I've got a 126 kill streak in story missions, and Tim's highest is 128 or whatever it is.
Yeah,
Yes, I gave you a higher one. That was
right. Yeah, no, I don't want to look at my stats compared to you guys. No, I think that's cool that they kept tying that aspect in. You know, the scoreboard at the end of a mission, they tied that in despite the fact that this is just an RPG.
right.
It's not, but at the same time, they don't give you direct access to your KD and stuff in the game. Is that in that companion app
It
too?
is. It is
Okay.
for multiplayer and for the campaign, which I always think is stupid to have a KD breakdown and all the stats for a campaign, which is always
Can you
just
imagine? I can't
it's
imagine what.
completely overblown. Like I had one mission that was like my KD was 186 or something like
Oh my
that.
God. Yeah, that's pretty ridiculous. I'll have to check out that companion app. I don't want to get too absorbed, but I think it speaks volumes about the the gameplay, just due to the fact that we do get loud whenever we're in a party. We don't really pay attention to what's going on, but at the same time, we're still like kind of wrapped up in what we're playing.
And they've struck a balance with the amount of enemies on screen too, which I've been really happy with. Which it's there's no real difference whether you're playing single player or multiplayer, but they've found a balance to where there are enough enemies on the screen whenever you're playing co-op with two or three people that you don't feel like one person is getting all the action and there's
Speak for
nothing.
yourself.
uh, I say that because I'm the person that always runs out ahead of everyone.
Yes, yes, you are. And
uh,
it's always, oh, hey, there's nothing to kill.
but I'm always the first to die too because of that. So,
That's true. That's one thing. This game is probably the first game in a long time where I die less than everybody else.
so yeah, but they really do have a balance with the amount of enemies on the screen to where there's a decent amount if you're playing good, true cooperative where everyone's playing together rather than it just being a competition within co-op to see who can get the most kills. But even still, we all end up with really comparable kills. I mean, all jokes aside, like, and you guys end up with more than I do pretty regularly, especially because I'll die and you guys make me think about my mistakes before you revive me. So,
I,
um,
well, you gotta discipline.
yeah, but yeah, there's enough enemies on screen to where everyone has their battles and can actually enjoy it, and then you can turn around and play it single player without feeling overwhelmed, which I think is a really delicate balance, and they've struck that pretty well. So
Do you think there's anything in the first patch that will get nerfed? I have a feeling sniper rifles are gonna get dumbed down.
I don't know. I really don't.
The fact that I'm doing, I think, around 1600 damage per headshot at level 10, um, I can pretty much take out anything in one hit, with the
But
exception of a
but
witch
we've
because of the
also
guard.
yeah, well we've also been playing some lower level missions too, which you have to take into consideration. So, and also co-op, like single player, you'll probably get a little bit more overrun with some of those like sprinting hive guys or whatever. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, I mean, I'm sure they're going to switch up a lot of stuff with the first patch, but so far I've really been enjoying it. I'm definitely going to finish playing out my classes for sure, and which kind of dovetails into my next thing, which is replayability. What are you thinking so far? Personally, I'm really excited to finish up my character and do all the things, even though I'm almost at maximum level. Like, there's still a lot of stuff in game that I really want to do and explore and check out. So.
Yeah, which is cool because one of the things that they did for this weekend, one of the events, I believe, unless it's one that's further down the road, but one of the announced events at least is already a dungeon, like a secret dungeon that they opened up for the event, which I think is cool. I don't know if, between, week to week they're building different. secret dungeons or secret experiences for people to go through, which I think would be really cool. And it seems to be, I don't know, it seems like there's a lot to do with endgame.
Yeah.
And like Diablo, where you get to the point where you cap, and then there's still a lot to try to accomplish. Um, and the fact,
Somebody, yeah, somebody actually kind of phrased it that way online, which was that it's similar to Diablo and some of those other games where the game doesn't really start until you reach your level cap, because then
yeah,
you're not just grinding for the sole purpose of just getting to that level cap and like, oh, I really want to know what all my abilities are. Then you can actually play the game and enjoy it and pick up cool stuff along the way. So,
yeah, I think that is pretty awesome. I think that for me anyway, I feel like I'd want to try and max out and do as much as I can with one character before starting another, because I don't
right,
want to necessarily. I make the same mistake with sports games all the time, where I'll start, I'll get halfway through a season, and then I'll be like, oh, what if I did this? What if I did that? Like, what if I go back and start with this team or this
right.
character, and then I'll end up, spread
Well,
out too thin.
Well, just do what I did. I mean, I've really been enjoying the system that I've got in place where I have a character that I play solo with, and then I've got another character that is just for playing with you and Troy, basically. So that I know that that character that whenever we play is always going to be in comparable level to you guys, is going to be there and available. And then I have another completely different build that I can go out and do whatever I want to with. So that's always an option too.
Yeah, until I get up to that level with my hunter, and then you got to start playing with me with your Titan.
No, then I'll just have two characters that are that level.
Got all that time on your hands, boy. No, yeah, I'm really looking forward to what the rest of the game has in store. One of the things I was thinking about the other day is whenever they first reveal that there's something bad is going on Venus.
Oh yeah.
Whenever you're in the moon, I was like, oh shit, I cannot wait. And whenever they revealed that, is it just the fact that we know these planets and we're like, oh, like is there a certain sort of attachment to the fact that we live in this solar system? You're like, I really want to explore this. Like, what does it look like?
That and then I was actually thinking the other day, I was like, this is kind of depressing that apparently this is this like super crazy future Earth civilization, and even then we haven't gone outside our own solar system. Like,
Okay, I give you that. I give you that. But how far in the future are we? Did they give us an AD?
I don't think they gave us like an actual time frame, but I mean it seems pretty far in the future, clearly. So, but
Like
yeah, I mean,
2020 maybe?
well,
2020 probably.
but the other cool thing, I mean, speaking of that timeline that the companion app and those cards really unfold, is it talks about the different like ages essentially in the game, where there's the golden age where the traveler really comes to Earth and all the expansion and technology and innovation happens, and then there's the dark ages where the darkness really comes to Earth and everything completely changes and the traveler shuts down and goes silent, and then it gives birth to the new age where the ghosts come out and find the guardians and they start rebuilding the cities and stuff like that. It's really really neat to get into all that stuff, which they don't even touch in the game. So,
Yeah, that's that does sound a lot more interesting than what we're playing. With that said,
but at the same time, it's like I said, I can't tell you anything about Diablo really, even though I played through it probably 2 dozen times.
yeah,
I can't. I really can't. I know the gist of it, but even still, you boil it down, and it's a pretty simple concept.
yeah, Diablo. That's what
Yeah,
it is.
yeah.
We
So
broke it down the other night while we were playing, and it was like it's pretty much this guy's granddaughter turns into Big Titty Diablo,
that's it.
and yep,
And you've got
you
to
gotta kill.
fight, and you've got to fight other demons.
Yeah, it's like her mom goes against her wishes, turns her into Diablo, and then you got to fight these other guys.
Right.
And as in every, or as in the last Diablo, you have to play Desert Mission, your second act. So, or Desert Act. It's pretty much the exact same structure through both of those games. It's kind of funny, atmosphere, environment wise. So, what do we have anything left on the list? Do you want to talk weapons?
Yeah, sure.
So far, what are your thoughts? What do you like best? What have you been playing with?
Again, I think it goes down. before we get into weapons, just sort of to note of the system they have in place, I like that you're not pigeonholed into playing with a specific type of weapon. Your character lends itself to playing better with particular types of weapons. However, you can use any weapon that you get in the game. I can use sniper rifles even though I'm a tank. You can use assault rifles and shotguns even though you're a hunter. But to that point, I think for my play style, the assault rifle is always my primary. And then for secondary, I've really been enjoying the fusion rifles. The burst they're like a burst rifle that have like elemental powers to them. And then obviously there's the heavy weapon, which I switch back and forth depending on if I'm playing multiplayer online or single player for the machine gun and rocket launcher. If I'm playing single player, I'll go machine gun, but online you can't beat the one hit kill of a rocket launcher. So, what about
All
you?
right. I haven't explored too much. I've played with the pulse rifle. Or no, wait. It's fusion rifle or pulse rifle? Pulse rifle. I keep getting them mixed up.
Pulse
The
rifle is
the
the
battle.
burst single,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
your primary. Yeah.
I played that for a little bit. Wasn't a huge fan of it. I like for my primary, I keep switching between a scout rifle and a hand cannon. Hand cannons are pretty sweet because of the headshot factor. And mostly, I try and rock my sniper, despite the fact that it's so hard to find special ammo throughout the game. It seems like I'm running out of ammo every probably 5 minutes, just because it's mostly primary ammo that drops, which I mean it makes sense because it is quote
Well, the
unquote
other thing,
special.
right? Well, the other thing is some of your armor later on will allow you to carry more ammo for some of those other for like
Yeah,
different
and
weapon types, so you can stock up earlier on and not have that problem. So.
yeah, but that's the main combination I really stick with is usually a hand cannon and a sniper rifle, just because if I ever get into one of those sticky situations when I'm actually in the fray, I can just start blowing heads off with the hand cannon, with that Desperado kind of mini shotgun that he has in that movie.
Right.
Yeah, just blowing kneecaps off. That's all I'm doing. No, I'm excited to see some of the other stuff. I don't really mess with heavy weapons very much because my sniper rifle does just as much damage from a distance as
Yeah.
getting up there with the LMG or the with the rocket launcher. But most frustrating enemy you've played? That
Um,
spider still?
that thing is a pain in the ass. Honestly, I think the most frustrating thing are those little hive guys that will just swarm you, and if
And
you don't,
explode?
if well, no, not the exploding ones, just the ones that come in the masses, and if you don't mow them down before they get to you, you've got 10 or 15 of them all around you, and you've just got to start jumping to try to get away from them all.
Yeah, you get into that frantic double jump state where you're
Right,
just
right,
bouncing all over the map.
right.
That's one
But
of my
yeah,
favorite parts about escaping, though. There's actually like a legitimate route or legitimate strategy to get out of the fray too,
yeah,
because of the double jumping. It's not everybody is just as fast as you or so much slower than you. Just I mean you have to make the right moves, but it's pretty doable to escape death, which is
right.
kind of nice.
Which is
Um,
always, I mean, kiting is another big thing to games like that. Is you
yeah,
inevitably run into a boss that you've got to turn around and haul ass to get away from.
yeah.
So,
Being able to duck behind the rock structures and all that
right,
stuff.
right.
I have not ventured to Venus yet. What's your favorite planet so far?
I haven't ventured to Venus either. I just finished up the moon today with my
Holy
Titan.
shit, you're level 19 and you haven't left the moon?
No, well, I played so much Crucible. I mean, I think my total campaign with my Titan, my time is at like 2.5 hours or 2 hours and 45 minutes, and my Crucible time is like 3.5 hours. So
Oh, wow.
it's like it's a pretty even balance. So that's really why. Yeah, I've got all I have left on the moon is the strike, and I'll probably do that tomorrow night if I don't end up playing with you guys instead. Which that'll probably be what I end up doing tomorrow night anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm still on the moon. I haven't gone past that, but of between the moon and Earth, I'm going to say the moon just because I played through most of Earth in the beta. So
Yeah, likewise. I like what they did with the moon. I think that's pretty sweet.
yeah,
And I was talking to you about future expansion packs, how it's pretty much endless given our solar system and Jupiter and Saturn's number of moons. And
yeah, yeah,
okay, so yeah, it's like five Saturn moons per
right.
expansion pack. Was
But that's a
20
good thing
plus
to
moons?
know. What's that?
What are there like 20 plus moons?
Oh fuck if I know. I don't know any of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's another thing to note, though. I guess they're planning to do two expansions, so I'm sure we'll see. I actually noticed. I don't know if I've started trying to figure out what there's going to be in the expansions, and I actually noticed something today that so for your class, you have two different skill trees that you can choose. One that you unlock out the gate, the other one you unlock out after level 15. Each one gives you different abilities and skill sets. There's actually a slot past the second one for a third one. So I'm assuming
Oh.
that one of those expansions will be a new skill tree for all the classes, and obviously they're gonna roll out some new planets or moons. But yeah, I'm really excited to see what they do with that, and potentially another class. I think that would be kind of sweet.
Yeah, that would be cool. I don't know if they would get to the point. What is it? Was it Titanfall that refused to add
Yeah,
characters and
and
classes
I
into
could
the
see
game?
them do that too because of the balancing that would have to go into it all. That they don't roll it out. However, it seems a lot easier for um, games like that to roll out another character class built into a system that they already have in place. You see Diablo and WoW do it pretty regularly.
Yeah, no
Although
doubt.
I don't think I don't think Diablo rolled out another class for their expansion. Diablo 3 did they?
Yeah, I believe they did. God, what is it called? Crusader, I think.
Oh, they did. I didn't know they did. I didn't pick up that expansion, even though I logged.
Um, Shit, I can't remember. I want to say that's what it was.
I got you.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
that would be
Yeah,
sweet. That would be
yeah,
sweet if they added another character class. That would be really fun.
yeah, I agree with that. I think that would add to replayability. I
I
think
just
that
I just worry about the multiplayer component to it, which that seems to throw the wrench in the system for everything. I think that's why Diablo 3 got away with it because they didn't have the PvP stuff really set up whenever they rolled. I mean, I guess they were getting it ironed out or had just sort of rolled it out whenever the Reaper of Souls came out, but that's a whole thing to tackle whenever you've got an entire multiplayer system already set up and then you're putting in another class with another set of specials. But I mean, the specials are pretty balanced though in multiplayer. It seems like every class has a one-hit kill special, ability, and
yeah,
all the other things factor into it. So I mean, even with the hunter, they've got the golden gun, which doesn't put out as much impact as like say the Titan thing does, but if you can use it well, you can easily get 3 kills. And I'm normally only getting, I mean, I might get 3 if I'm lucky and time it right for mine. But I don't know if well, I guess you haven't played Crucible at all, but the subclass for Hunter actually seems pretty fucking awesome. And you become like a shadow assassin almost whenever you do your special, and you just get really fast and you pull out that little sword and you're just slashing everything.
that does sound pretty
Yeah.
awesome. That's probably been the highlight for me when you talk about sword was grabbing that knight sword in the bottom of that temple and just
I went back and played
dominating.
that twice today because it's so fun. Yeah.
It's fantastic. That's another cool thing in replayability is it, let's say like what we were doing the other night when we were, like probably 2 levels below the recommended level for the next mission. It's like we'll just go back and play the other one on hard.
Right, right. Exactly.
And just having that ability to play it on hard, just upping the difficulty on missions you've already done and being able to level that way, it makes grinding a little less tedious.
Right, and it seems like they've got enough variation in the things that, like, once you get to the end game, they've got raids and strike missions that keep it interesting. That you have other things to go back and play aside from multiplayer. So.
Yeah. So that might be enough for tonight on Destiny. I can't imagine
Yeah,
that's the
yeah.
last we talk about it, especially given the fact that we're going to be recording back at our regularly scheduled, well, not regularly scheduled time, but regular schedule, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, and I don't think we have anything else coming out until, at least I don't have anything else coming out until Sunset Overdrive. So I've got another month and a half before I've got another title, so I'm sure we'll talk about this a good bit.
Dude, I'm so tempted. I'm so tempted after watching it was the first time I watched the trailer for Shadows of Mordor earlier. I I'm so tempted to buy that game, but I'm not sure that I'm gonna get around to it.
I just know I'll log a ton of hours into Destiny, and it's
Yeah,
going to be a tough one for me to rationalize getting something else to beat out over it because there's so much stuff that I still have to do, and I can't see myself getting sick of that and having enough time to go through an equally expansive game
in
in
2 weeks. Yeah,
yeah, exactly.
yeah, yeah. So, um, I guess tonight in about 30 minutes, and obviously if you're listening to it on Monday, it's already happened, but The Strain episode 10 out of 13, so we're getting close to the end of the first season um, of what is looking to be a long ongoing series, given the fact that they already were renewed halfway through the season for a second season. But I mean, so far, I think it's been a fantastic series, especially with it being a summer series.
Yeah.
Um, that's another series that you and I both really love that you turned me on to that happened during the summer that kind of just went under the radar on AMC, *Halt and Catch Fire*. Um,
Yep.
that's one that also glad I got picked up for a second season. But
Starring
the
Ronan.
yep, exactly, that voice and that man-child face that he has.
Yep.
He has like a chubby man-child face. Um, no, the Strain to me has definitely been the standout summer series so far. It's getting probably the biggest audiences. It's such a hard time for shows to really thrive. And
Right.
it's kind of when they just throw shit to the wind and see what sticks. And so far, to me, it's stuck. I don't know. I think you're still on board.
Yeah. Mm, how can I put this? Because I don't want to spoil anything. Because I know several people that listen to the show haven't watched it yet with intents to watch it. What did I say yesterday? I have really enjoyed the show. I think the pacing is some of the best of a show that I've seen so far, in that it's just slowly built to a really great climax. And overall, I think the story is still building really well, and a lot of stuff that's going on in the environment is really great. But one of the big reveals that they built up to, and one of the things that happened in the last episode, was a huge letdown. And I don't want to say what that is because it is a pretty big thing in the show. But overall, I'm really, really loving it. I think my only issue is Filch, but even still, it's nitpicking. I know he's one of your favorites, so.
It's funny. I've been listening to the book and I guess the way Ron Perlman actually narrates the book, which is fucking awesome.
Oh wow! I definitely
Yeah,
need to check that
yeah,
out then.
yeah. You need to. I'm about 4 hours from finishing the first book. I'd say it's about 80% the same as the show, which is
That's
kind of
great.
good. It's kind of Guillermo kind of gave that. He did the pilot and he's producing the show. I think him and Chuck Hogan both are producing the show. They kind of give that 20% um, kind of flexibility to kind of add
Right,
and
right.
I thought about it the other day. I was like, what better way for a writer to improve upon stuff that after writing his book and finalizing it and reading it and being like, I should have done this in this situation. I should have done
Right.
this in a different order. Some people might see that as kind of sacrilege, but at the same time, I see that as I've always kind of liked a director taking his own or making his own stamp on a series, given that he doesn't completely fudge it. But um, I think that's kind of cool because it's kind of if you've read the book, there's enough in there to keep you there's enough different to keep you interested and kind of you're
Right.
like why did they do it this way whatever. But I I think it's fantastic. But I guess the point, Tim's story, the point that I was getting to was the way that they do Satrakian, and in the book, he is a he is the same as he is in the show. He's an Armenian Jew who survived concentration camp, but Ron Perlman narrates him in a kind of a Eastern European accent, whereas David Bradley, or as you so affectionately call him, Argus Filch from Harry Potter, uh, um, he does it kind of in an American accent because he's a British guy, kind of doing an old, almost like a old New Yorker accent. I
Yeah,
don't
it's
know.
very odd. And it's kind of a combination of his accent and just the casting of him. And I get it. I get the idea of the age and the way the character is supposed to look, but I can imagine so many other actors that would be so better in that role. And the accent is a big thing that throws me off. As half the time I have no idea what the hell he's saying.
Yeah, yeah, I can agree with you on that. I feel I do enjoy David Bradley in that show. I think that he's kind of impactful. I feel like his he kind of makes a stamp, but he's overshadowed. I think everybody's kind of overshadowed by Corey Stoll as Ephraim.
He's great.
Um,
I've really enjoyed him and the German guy.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Eichhorst.
Yeah,
Eichhorst is one of the creepier villains
yeah.
because it's not that he's a sympathetic figure. I don't know how else to describe it, but that he's not necessarily like he's not so overtly creepy in the way that he his appearance, but it's the things that he says and kind of the kind of flat affect he has.
Right, and they've done some really great character development on him throughout the series so far too. There's an opening to one episode that was probably one of my top moments from the show that features him. That was really really well done with the makeup and stuff like that.
Yeah,
So
no, I completely agree about that.
yeah, but yeah, overall, I'm really enjoying it. I'm really excited to see where it goes. I have a bad taste in my mouth from last week, but I'm willing to overlook it. Aside from last week, um, I think the like practical effects and stuff like that in the show have been really, really great, and I'm really excited to see where it goes, and especially because of something that you reminded me of the other night. It's really hard to talk about the show because I really don't want to spoil anything. Um, but there are the way that they've done this show is really, if you haven't watched the show, pay attention to it because there's several things that happen that you don't hear or see anything of. There's a critical thing that happened like 4 or 5 episodes ago that has been sort of under my radar until you mentioned it to me or last night or so. So I'm excited to see where it goes for sure.
Yeah, they do a good time not timeline but setting jumping, plot jumping between episode and episode because what we were talking about the other night was such a big reveal, not a reveal, like a big surprise, and then you go to the next week and they kind of focus on other stuff and it kind of
Right,
puts it in the back of your mind and then it's going to happen again, I'm sure, before they're going to it's going to resurface before the end of the season. It's going to be, oh shit, like
right,
it's going to be leading to a big thing, and that's it's also like the book. The book does that a lot, where they leave you hanging. At the end of the chapter, they'll stop at like what seems to be a critical point, and then um, a couple chapters later, they'll go back to that, and then it's almost as if stuff has already happened, and they're kind of rehashing it. It's
right.
kind of weird, but yeah, definitely if you want to get ahead or kind of follow along with where they're going, check out the audiobook. It's pretty solid. I have almost 2 hours worth of commute to kill during the day, so I've been turning that on during my drive to and from work, and uh, I'd say excited. FX seems to put out such quality content, and despite some of the cheese that has been apparent in the first season of The Strain, I think that they've done a good job overcoming some of those obstacles, especially that cable TV and network TV too have budget restraints and time
Right,
restraints that
right.
an Avengers or a Transformers don't. Because there are moments where the CGI looks fantastic, and then there's moments where it's like maybe it's the lighting or whatever that it doesn't look as good, and It doesn't necessarily leave a bad taste in my mouth. Some of it does, but for the most part, those little things don't really bother me as much. It's because it's a TV show. It's not, and a lot of the stuff they're doing can't be done with makeup like The Walking Dead can.
Right.
So, um, anyway, I'm looking forward to watching that tonight. It's
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And I'm looking forward to getting back into some Destiny. I guess with that, we're right at about an hour. So thanks for joining us, guys. It's been long overdue. Hopefully, we'll get back on schedule. If you have been a longtime listener of the show or a new listener, even, be sure to go throw some stars up on iTunes. Find both of us on Twitter. Tim, where can they find you at?
You can find me at my name at Tim Herb, Timherb.
And you can find me as well at the_ARC1TECT. We're gonna
I've
try to
missed
make
it.
this. We're gonna try to
I've
make it more
missed.
regular. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for hanging out. We'll try to get some new guests on here. We've got a few things coming down the pipeline. Try to do it big for you guys. We will be hit or miss. It won't be every week, of course. We do have other stuff going on, but hopefully this will be a better setup and we can be a lot more consistent for you guys. So thanks for tuning in. For those of you that said something or harassed us about getting back on the air, we appreciate it, and we always appreciate the love. So thanks again, and tune in next week for an all-new episode of the Banter Podcast.
See you guys.